Hani Sabra is an associate specializing on the Middle East at the Eurasia Group. He's here with us now. This seemed to be really a civil conflict, but within the past few weeks, now Saudi Arabia running airstrikes through into Yemen. How much of a worry should this be for the markets?
I don't think it should be a worry in the short term, but I definitely think people should consider it as a long-term threat to Saudi Arabia. And it's interesting that you mentioned Saudi Arabia's involvement in Yemen, because it is a civil conflict in Yemen. The conflict that Saudi Arabia got involved with in the last week or so is a civil conflict originally. But as far as Saudi Arabia is concerned, they want to ensure that the Yemeni state doesn't become a failed state. And they see that Yemen is facing pressure from the south. You have secessionists in the south, and you have the Houthis in the north who've been fighting with the government for the last 5 years or 6 years. And so Saudi Arabia is concerned that Yemen hasn't been able to sort of battle all these insurgent movements back, and throw in the sort of the Al-Qaeda threat in Yemen, and sort of Saudi Arabia really begins to fear for Yemen's stability.
Now, there's also the question there of water resources in Yemen, which seem to be very much under pressure. How much is that factoring into the broader regional pressure?
I don't think it factors into the situation that's happening between the Houthis and the Yemeni government and Saudi Arabia at the time. I think, as we said, it's largely sort of a civil conflict. And the Houthis have, they're a Shia Zaidi sect. And there's a lot of talk about sort of Iran's involvement. You mentioned Iran earlier in your broadcast, and sort of Iran's involvement with Yemen. I think at this point it's more speculative than actually factual. But as far as Saudi Arabia is concerned, also the minute they are sort of rumors of an Iranian threat or Iranian involvement, it becomes sort of a more regional issue.
It becomes a proxy war. It has shades of Lebanon.
Exactly, and that's sort of some of the the commentators have discussed how Iran wants to make the Houthis sort of a Arabian Hezbollah. I don't think that this is the case, because if you look at Lebanon, for example, Hezbollah in Lebanon have a lot of sort of historical ties. They practice the same form of Shia Islam that the Iranian 12er Shias do. So there's a lot more of a connection there. But I think as far as Iran's concerned, even if there are rumors that they're involved in Yemen and sort of pressuring or bothering the Saudis, then this is something they're fine with.
Whenever Saudi Arabia is in a conversation, obviously the focus within the marketplace is on the oil supply.
Sure.
So far, the violence does not appear to be close to those oil fields.
No, I think, I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, if you look at sort of just a map of where this is happening, Sada is in northern Yemen, but it's, hundreds of miles away from oil production, which is in the eastern part of Saudi Arabia. But I think if you look at long term, a lot of groups in Yemen, not the Houthis, but groups like Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, want to sort of use this to infiltrate Saudi Arabia and possibly attack oil installations. It's not going to happen in the short term, but it's a long-term consideration.
All right, and it's something that we're going to keep our eye on. Thank you so much for bringing us this analysis. That's Hani Sabra of the Eurasia Group.